Hi, I'm Steve.
And I'm Sandy, and we're two tenderfoot tourists. Welcome to episode 99, the one about Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming back to another episode of Two Tenderfoot Tourists. In the studio we have again Jason and Sarah, just like we had last week. Say hello, guys.
Hello guys.
Okay, last week they were talking about Cedar Point, and if you haven't listened to that episode, we really highly recommend that you go back and listen to that. And then
episode
also,
98.
98. Mm-hmm. Also, what made it special is that Jason's wife, Sarah, it was her first time at Cedar Point, and she got to ride all these rides and experience it. And you've been going to Cedar Point like once a year, every other year for a long time now.
Yeah.
And you, being the roller coaster enthusiast that you are, we've had you on here before, so if anybody would like to go back and listen to those episodes, it's...
they were really good
59
ones.
and 60, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, 59.
59 or 59, 60.
59 and 60. It's in the 50s. It was as boomerangs,
bunny hops and barrel rolls.
That's what it is. That's it. So I usually have that ahead of me. I'm just talking.
She should be our producer.
Totally should be our producer.
Should be your editor, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Writing stuff.
Yes, I'll submit all my copy to you and you post it
and
for
you'll
me.
get to be the one going, what's he saying?
Yeah. Gosh. I'm horrible. Okay, so...
Now, I'm assuming, Sarah, that you had also not been to Kings Island.
No, I had not.
Very cool.
Very cool. Now, how far away is... Because you did this all in 1 week. How far away is Cedar Point and Kings Island?
About 3.5, 4 hour drive.
I didn't ask you in the last episode about Cedar Point. Around Cedar Point, is there a lot of places for people to stay and reasonable prices on hotels?
Yeah. Again, it's like the Branson of northern Ohio. There's motels, hotels, any price range you can think of is there.
Now, Kings Island, is that similar?
No, Kings Island is not as much of a touristy destination. Like Cedar Point, Sandusky, Ohio, it's on the water. There's just lots of different stuff to do there. Kings Island is more like your regional amusement park outside of a big city
with its own private graveyard.
That's right, with its own graveyard. Which
are you impressed that I remember that?
That was cool. I was actually looking for it. I was
wow.
telling Ariel about it, but we didn't have time to actually go find it. But yeah, we talked about that. I don't remember what episode, but when we did the spooky Halloween roller coaster thrill rides, haunted thrill rides, it was fun.
It was. Yeah, I loved it. We want to do it again this year.
Definitely, we will.
For sure.
Okay.
So, so Kings Island. Sarah.
Yes.
First time in Kings Island.
Yes.
What did you think?
About the same thing as I thought at Cedar Point. It was a little bit smaller than Cedar Point, but it's still bigger than Silver Dollar City. The rides were bigger. A lot of variety, the type of rides. There's kiddie areas as well that we didn't go into those, except for one ride, that water ride.
We rode their log ride.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, which was fun.
Like a log flume
We got
type
soaked.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We got soaked.
Did you?
Yes.
All right, awesome.
But it was a hot day, so it was nice.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I rode it twice. Me and Ariel rode it first, and we didn't get that wet because there's two of us, but when we got 5 or 6 of us in the boat, yeah, we got pretty drenched. It was awesome.
You said it was larger than Silver Dollar City. Just to give an idea, how many roller coasters compared to Cedar Point did Kings Island have, like on a number? Adult rides, by the way.
Yeah, I would say 8 to 10. I don't know. I didn't look that up before, but not as many, but still worth the trip if you're there.
Okay.
Or if you're going to be there.
All right. Okay, so did you have one ride that stood out to you the most there at Kings Island there, Sarah?
There are several that I did not care too much for, but my favorite was Banshee.
Yeah, there you go.
That was the first one we rode, and the last one.
The world's longest inverted roller coaster.
Well done, Steve. I'm surprised you pulled that out of that noggin of
yours.
I know.
This reaches speeds of 68 miles an hour.
Wow.
I know. It's amazing how those things just pop right off of my head.
I'm going to put these headphones up because I'm done.
4,124 feet of track.
Where's it? Sandy. Oh, my goodness.
They even have I just saw that. They have the graveyard.
Yeah.
Did you mention 7 inversions?
No, I don't think I mentioned that.
There's just so much swimming in your head. It's
I
hard
know.
To, all those facts.
We're reading Jason's shirt.
Anyway, having fun.
Oh, yeah, the graveyard. I remember that story now.
You remember that?
Yeah, that was very
Graveyard.
cool.
And
See any ghosts while you're there?
No, that would have been awesome.
It would have been awesome.
But I think Kings Island has one of the prettiest, like, entry park entries. You walk in and there's just fountains, just really long of fountains just, and they do, and shops, but they have a replica of the Eiffel Tower in the middle of the park, which is cool. Yeah, it's like 300 feet tall. So I think it's like a third of the built to scale, you know what I'm saying? Third of the size.
Of the actual size of the Eiffel Tower.
But if I remember right, we talked about in the spooky thrill rides, there was the guy who climbed that Eiffel Tower and he fell. Wasn't that right?
Yep.
And he got chopped up in the gears and kind of messed up, gnarly.
Did you see him?
I was looking for him, and no, I didn't see him.
That's such a bummer.
We did not go up.
Well, that
on
is
the
a pretty
plaza.
opening.
Yeah,
I got some pictures too when we were there of the front entry.
We might use those if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so Kings Island. Now, Kings Island is kind of an unusual name for.
I thought so too. Yeah.
I mean, it really stands out.
Right.
It kind of gives you an idea. It's like you're going to get a royally good time. Ha! Thank you, everyone. Good.
Don't forget to tip your waitress.
That's it. Try the veal. Anyway. But Kings Island, correct me, do you remember why it's called?
There was actually a park closer to downtown Cincinnati, in the early to mid 1900s. It was called Coney Island. Now it wasn't the, Coney Island in
Not
New
the
York,
same, no.
right? But for whatever reason, it was named Coney Island. It was really popular, but the thing would flood because it was on the Ohio River. So it flooded a lot. So one year, I think I read it was covered under like 14 feet of water, something insane. Yeah. So they were thinking, all right, we got to find a better place to have a park. So they settled on the location where it's at now, and it was opened in the early 70s, I believe, 72 if I remember right. But they actually, I think they had a contest or somehow polled people as to what they should call the new park. And the King Park came from, I think there was a town or something close by that had the word King in it. I can't remember the name exactly. And then Island was paying homage to the Coney Island. So they just put them together and got Kings Island. But there's no kings and definitely no islands in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. That's kind of an interesting story. Yeah. Outside of the Kings Island, that is the big draw to Cincinnati, Ohio. Really, I mean,
in my opinion, sure. Why else would you go to Cincinnati?
Okay, so
Skyline Chili.
Oh, that's true. Skyline Chili was awesome.
And Graeter's Ice Cream.
And Graeter's Ice Cream. Yeah.
Okay, now what is this you're talking about? Is this inside the park or outside the park?
Both.
Oh, okay. Well, tell us about that.
There's, I guess Cincinnati's known for the Skyline Chili.
It's like a fast food almost.
It's a franchise of restaurants, chain of restaurants that they serve chili type products. So it's on spaghetti noodles, or you can get a big potato, or you can get French fries with chili and cheese and.
Okay. It's like Cashew Chicken is to Springfield. The Skyline Chili is to Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's very popular.
Right. And locals, it's, most people are like, Skyline, what? But if you're from Cincinnati, you know what, Skyline Chili is.
Okay. So if you're going to use the analogy of Cashew Chicken in Springfield, Missouri, Skyline Chili has got to be like crack to them.
Right. It kind of is. It was good.
It is pretty good.
Yeah.
How'd you have yours?
I tried a couple different ways. I got it on the spaghetti noodles, and the thing about it is they give you like a wad of shredded cheddar cheese, and they just plop it on top. And
very
it is
generous with the
awesome.
cheese.
Oh my god, it's like the size of your fist.
Wow.
That's how I serve cheese.
That's right. Yeah, how else would you serve it? And then I got it on a chili dog, just like that, and it had mustard and the chili and just a wad of cheese, and it was fantastic.
And they have one of those in Kings Island?
Yeah, they have a couple of them inside the park.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd highly recommend if you want a taste of the culture there.
Absolutely.
What is it? Skyline Chili.
We did not eat in the park at Skyline, but I looked briefly at the price, and it was about twice the price in the park is what you paid outside of the park. And
they don't have quite the variety, because I looked at the menu too. It was a little shorter menu. But yeah, if you haven't had it, it's worth it to try it, in my opinion.
Very cool.
And there's a local ice cream shop too.
Yeah.
And there's a location inside the park. And the prices were pretty similar in the park. I was surprised.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
I didn't get any in the park because I wasn't hungry, but I looked at the menu just out of curiosity, and the prices were about the same.
Okay.
So like Springfield, Missouri has Andy's, frozen custard.
Yeah.
Everybody from Springfield knows Andy's. Well, everybody from Cincinnati knows Graeter's. Graeter's ice cream.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so what kind of ice cream? Is it just regular dairy?
It's regular ice cream, but they're really famous for, what was it? I think it was black raspberry chocolate chip.
Oh, I would love that so much.
I know you would, yeah.
Pretty popular, yeah.
That
They had
sounds
all sorts
great.
of treats you could buy.
Oh, yeah.
Baked goods that you could buy that was pre-made and prepackaged.
But
by
they
them.
do a lot of those chocolate chip. And I believe I remember, because we met up with somebody who was a local, she was saying, I think that the black raspberry chocolate chip is like their flagship. That's their go-to.
Yeah,
ice cream.
okay. That's one of those flavors that is my favorite that you can't find anywhere.
Really?
It's like a dark chocolate with raspberry.
Well,
Is that what it is?
yeah, I had it
Oh.
the last time we were there a couple years ago, and it was
love
pretty
that
good.
stuff, but not very many places serve something
No,
like that. So that's
So if you're ever so when we go to Cedar Point and then we make it down to Cincinnati, we're going to go to Skyline Chili and Graeter's Ice Cream.
All right, so let's talk about Kings Island, guys.
Mm-hmm.
The go-to is the Banshee.
One of them, yeah.
One of the go-tos?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely one not to miss roller coaster.
So, so the Banshee, what else would you recommend that someone would ride?
Well, there is the one coaster that put Kings Island on the map, and that's the
Ooh.
Beast.
Oh, yeah, the Beast.
The Beast.
It's what was it? Son of Beast is the one we...
Yeah, the Banshee replaced the Son of Beast. Yeah, we
that's
talked
what it
about
was.
those
Yes.
on that first episode I did.
The Beast. Now, what makes the Beast so special?
The Beast is still the longest, I don't know, at least the longest wooden roller coaster in the world. It may be the longest roller coaster period, I can't remember, but it's definitely the longest wooden. When it was built, it was also the tallest and the fastest. So, it's about 150-ish feet tall, and I would say 60-ish in the 60s miles an hour. So it was built in 1979. It's 40 years old this year. Yeah, still standing. And,
Wow.
it's everything you can imagine as far as an old wooden ride. Rickety, beats you up.
Wooden roller coaster. I don't like the fact that they beat you up so bad, but
Yeah.
it's something about the sounds and.
Oh yeah, this
I
is the
like
one.
'em.
Yeah, and if you can imagine, it doesn't really have airtime, so it's not one that's going to pop you out of your seat or anything like that. But if you can imagine an out of control runaway like mine cart in the forest, in the woods, that's what this ride is. I mean, it's just unrelentingly fast and low to the ground, and you're just going through the woods, and it's crazy. It's what it's really known for is its nighttime rides.
Wow.
We want you on that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
seriously.
And I told Ariel,
You want me on all the rides. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
yes.
I want you on with GoPro.
You wouldn't get any footage that could be viewable. It'd be too.
So is there any rides, are GoPros allowed on either Cedar
No.
Point or Kings Island?
No.
No, okay. I just thought
The first year we went, I think I told you the story about Jordan hiding it.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
had a whole contraption on his
Yeah.
chest that he had to.
He did not do that this time.
No, he didn't do that the last couple of times. It was harder, I think, than he thought it was to
So funny.
screw it and put it on, and while you're going up the lift hill, and not be obvious. But
Yeah.
now they've got cameras on the lift hill; they can see, and they'll stop that thing
And they'll take it away from you.
and probably kick you out of the park.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Kings Island, it sounds like, as far as like the way it's laid out, as we say here in the Ozarks, they gussied it up a little bit
They
better
gussied
than
it
Cedar
up.
Point.
Put some lipstick on the
Yeah,
pig.
exactly.
There you
The entrance you said was really, really nice with the water fountains.
Really pretty, yeah.
The ride selection is like really, really good.
Yeah, it's a great selection. Yeah.
We meant to do this on the Cedar Point one also, but we can just talk about it all.
Sure.
Were there rides that you like, Sarah, that he did not like, or vice versa?
Oh yeah.
He loves any ride. I don't think there's anything he didn't like.
True statement.
I did not like some of them at Kings Island just because the last part of the day I started getting a headache, and no matter what I took, it wasn't really.
Yeah.
As I was walking around, my head would be fine, but once I got on a ride, it would pound. And so the last few rides, I had to ride with my eyes closed because
That's how I ride
it made
'em.
me, not because I was
For a
scared,
different reason.
but because it made my head hurt less if my
Right.
eyes were closed. So the Beast, I couldn't handle.
Oh, that's sad.
I know.
And what was another one? Stunt car hurt my head. And there was one
That
more.
one was
towards the end of
that
the
little
day.
one was surprisingly intense. It pulls some G-forces out of that launch in the first turn.
I would think
Vortex,
that would be
or
rough on a
something.
head.
Vortex. Oh
that
yeah,
hurt my
that's
head,
a
too.
that's a headbanger.
So, but as far as like rides that you didn't care too much, the only reason why you didn't like them is because of the fact that you were suffering from a headache
Right.
at Kings Island.
Yeah, I would have loved them if I, didn't have the headache.
Right.
But
That's a bummer.
What about
know.
Ariel? Was she like you? She just kind of likes everything as long as
Yeah.
she gets to ride it?
Yeah, I think she had a couple of times where she had a headache. We popped her full of Dramamine, but you did too.
I did too.
I think
still
everybody
ended
did
up
except
having a
me.
headache.
Yeah, I didn't take any.
And Flight of Fear was a little rough, in my opinion.
Yeah, me and Ariel went and rerode that a couple of times.
Yeah, I just did it the once, and then I was like, nah, I can't
Yeah,
do it
Flight of
again.
Fear was fun. That was an indoor roller coaster.
Oh, cool.
It's just
If it
like,
was so rough, it would have been really fun.
yeah.
So explain to everybody's listening what Flight of Fear
Sure.
is.
So it's an indoor launched coaster that goes upside down 3 or 4 times. And if anybody knows the Rockin' Roller Coaster at Disney,
Oh, yeah.
at Hollywood,
I've
it's the
heard
same
of
ride.
it.
It's pretty much the same ride. But Disney, you have over the shoulder restraints. Flight of Fear at Kings Island, you just get the lap bar, which awesome. I want all roller coasters to just have lap bars. But you get launched 0 to 60 in 3 or 4 seconds, and then you just go in this building, and it's just this mess of track, and the lights are out, so it's in the dark.
You can still see a little
Yeah,
bit.
you can see a little bit, that's right, but you can't see everything.
Crazy.
And the head choppers on that, I don't know still to this day how they get all of that track and supports crammed in this seemingly small-ish building, but it's a big roller coaster, but it's just a mess. Let's see, there's a roller coaster that was in Six Flags America, I believe. It used to be called Joker's Jinx, something like that. It was the same ride, but it was outside, and you could just see the wad of track. And it's just like, I don't know how they engineered that and how that works, but
Yeah,
you know,
I
like
know-
a ball of yarn.
Oh,
That's
okay.
like the track.
Yeah.
I'd say
in the
there
building.
is a smaller one at Six Flags. I know that it looks like it's in a circle, but it's just all through itself.
Yeah.
It's insane. And I have ridden it, and it made me feel like I was going to get my head cut off.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really cool, but it was intense.
Yeah, this was a pretty intense ride. I mean, you can imagine the corners, the turns are very, very sharp.
Yeah.
So you're taking them at high speeds. That makes them even more intense than, a big one out in the open.
So Flight of Fear. Now in the past, you've told us that a lot of the roller coasters have like some sort of story or theme.
Yeah.
That usually comes with a lot of roller coasters. Does
Yeah.
Flight of Fear have a?
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. That was totally unplanned.
Oh, wow. Okay,
it's
there
one
you
of the
go.
best themed rides at Kings Island. So, Paramount actually owned Kings Island for a time. Paramount
Oh,
Movie
I didn't know
Studios.
that.
Yep. It was called Paramount's Kings Island. They bought it in the maybe late 80s, early 90s, and then they sold it 2000s-ish, something like that. So they had it in the 90s, which is when I first started going. So they used a lot of movie themes. They changed the names of rides. They had like Top Gun and the Italian Job, if you remember that movie.
Oh, yeah.
They had,
Yeah, that's a good movie.
a couple others I can't even remember at this point. But the Flight of Fear was themed to the Outer Limits. If you remember that TV show, Paramount, I guess, owned
Yeah.
that. So it was called,
Very
the name
nice.
of the ride was actually the Outer Limits Flight of Fear. And so it's themed to aliens and paranormal. So
That makes sense now because I was looking at pictures and I saw
Yeah.
a spaceship. I was like, that's kind of different.
yeah, so I think that their entrance to get on the ride is one of the best ones outside of Disney I've seen. So thankfully, when you're there in the summertime, that line is indoors, so it's air conditioned. So that's one of the pluses about waiting in line for that one. But you go in this giant empty warehouse type thing with just, the line going back and forth on the floor. And then there's this spaceship built in there, and you go up into the spaceship
Okay, that's
and
kinda
through
cool.
it to get onto the roller coaster, which, I thought it was, at the time, genius.
That's very creative.
And the way they pull it off, they didn't build the whole spaceship. It took me a few times going in the line. I'm thinking, how did they do this in here? Because you can see the spaceship, you're going up one side and you can see it all around behind it, but there's nothing over there. I'm like, what is that? Well, they only built half of it and they put it up against a mirror.
Ah.
So they only build it half sticking out, and
Nice.
and so you see the mirror image, so it looks like it's a giant spaceship. It looks like the
There's
warehouse
some
is way bigger.
practical effects going on
Yeah,
there.
I thought that was
love
really
that.
creative.
You could see it pretty good in this one. You could see the people going up.
Yeah, you go up in the middle of the spaceship there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now it was at Kings Island. You said that had a ride that was just so weird, and they had aliens in it. It's kind of like a Twin Peaks sort of affair going on there. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
No, is that something we talked about?
Yeah. I was wondering if that was Kings Island was the culprit for that
I don't
fiasco. I mean, it was just like an acid trip. No, never mind.
I do not remember that.
Maybe you're on acid.
I was dropping acid while we
Yeah,
did
and
the
you weren't
episode.
sharing, clearly.
No, I know, right? I'm selfish. I'm just selfish. That's what you expect from Mr. One Way. Okay, so if you were to have a choice, you only had one park to go to, either Cedar Point or Kings Island, which one would you go to?
Oh, that's like asking me my favorite kid.
Yeah.
You have one, but you can't tell?
Yeah.
No comment in case you all are listening. It's actually switched. I've at times said I would prefer Kings Island, and I've at other times said I would prefer Cedar Point, but I would definitely have to give it to Cedar Point now because of Steel Vengeance.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you did say that was your favorite one.
Yeah. Now, no, nothing against Kings Island, but I got to give it to Cedar Point.
We're going to get a lot of hate mail.
That's fine. Jason, Jason.
We'll pass those on to him.
That's right. We'll just send them.
He won't read them.
No.
She will and tell me about it.
Oh, my goodness.
What about you?
Yeah.
As far as what?
Were
Do
you
I
not
have
paying
to-
attention to the question that was asked?
I was not.
Okay, so if you're given a choice, you can only go
Oh.
one park.
Cedar Point.
Cedar Point?
Yeah.
Okay. Is
Well,
it because
especially-
Jason's there? Okay.
Especially if you
No, it's
think
when
about
Jason's at Kings Island, she picks Cedar Point.
If you think about it, she had a headache when she was at Kings Island.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
But there was
No,
more
that's
to
true.
do at Cedar Point, and it had Steel Vengeance. It also had the Magnum, and it had Gatekeeper. So those were some of my more favorite rides of the whole trip. And so those were all happened to be at Cedar Point.
Yeah, but Kings Island had better food.
Well,
I
that's
don't
a true
know.
statement. Skyline.
Well, but I didn't eat in the park.
No, but
At
if I
Skyline.
had to.
I did eat a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, they had a
At Kings Island, they
Chick-fil-A.
had a
At Kings
Chick-fil-A.
Island? Okay.
And that's when I went and rode rides when they were all eating.
There you go.
We talked about the Banshee, which you guys spouted off all these amazing facts.
Because we're just that way.
Yeah,
We're
so
awesome.
it is a fantastic, probably the best inverted roller coaster I've ever been on. Inverted means it hangs from the track and it goes upside down. So that one was great. And a little story. We talked about the Beast.
Yes.
There was actually, I can't remember if I think we talked about this in one of the other episodes, so I won't go huge into it. But there was actually a roller coaster called the Son of Beast
Yes.
that was built
Right.
in 2000 at Kings Island. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's supposed to be the son and, the bigger, better version of the Beast. Yeah. And it failed miserably. In fact,
Didn't last very long, did it?
no. In fact, I just read a stat that the company that was hired to build it, they were having so much trouble with Kings Island that Kings Island actually fired them before it got finished, mid-build.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know all the details, but I thought that was pretty interesting. But it was the first wooden roller coaster to break 200 feet. So it was all wood, 200 feet tall, and the first modern wooden coaster to have a loop, go upside down.
Oh, wow.
And it was every bit as rough as the original Beast on opening day. So it was people were complaining with neck issues, with back issues, and they may even got a lawsuit or two out of it. I don't know.
Wow.
They ended up taking out the loop and just making that a flat section of track to see if that would help improve it, but it just didn't really work. So they ended up closing it, and then it stood for 3 or 4 years before they finally tore it down.
Wow.
So it's no longer there anymore, but I did get a chance to ride it with the loop, and I remember it being a little painful, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'd do it again.
No pain, no gain.
Yeah, that's right.
That's so good.
That's right.
Come on, man.
But the Banshee is actually built on the site of the Son of Beast. So there's a little monument, like a tombstone with an eternal flame and Son of Beast logo with the years it was there,
I
which
love
I thought
that
was kind
so
of
much.
cool.
Is it on your shirt?
I don't
There's
think
tombstones,
so.
but I don't
there's
see the
tombstones,
one.
yeah. Because the Banshee is like an Irish.
That's a
folk-
flaw. They should have had that on your shirt.
I agree. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? So Banshee is a good ride. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the Diamondback.
Oh, what's the
Remember
Diamondback?
The Diamondback.
I do, yeah.
The
That
Diamondback.
was pretty good.
Oh man, the Diamondback is awesome. You don't know what airtime is until you have ridden the Diamondback.
So tell everyone what kind of roller coaster Diamondback is.
Diamondback is a hyper coaster, so that means it's over 200 feet tall, but it's not 300 feet tall. It's 200, and there's no upside down.
Right.
It's just all airtime and fast and hills, and it's got lots of hills. And it is super smooth. It's built by B&M, which is well known for smooth roller coasters. So no rough rattle beat you up like the Woodies.
And how's the airtime?
Oh, amazing. I told Ariel, I said, you don't even know what airtime is until we get off this thing. And she looked at me, she goes, you were right. Yeah. It is incredible floaty airtime, not ejector seat, but at the top of every hill. The front's the best by far. You just float out of your seat the whole time you're cresting the hill, and then when you go back down, it kind of pushes you back down in your seat, and then you go up the next one, and as you're cresting it, you float out, and you just got those moments of just floating, and all that's holding you in is that little lap bar, and it's great. And your feet don't touch the ground either, so the track's below you, but your seat kind of leans you back a little so your feet aren't touching, so you really are floating just by the lap bar.
Now, is that the roller coaster you were riding when someone shoved you back down in your seat once?
No, that was in Chicago.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I'm still
What
mad
ride
at
was
him.
that again? Just curious.
What was the name of that ride? I can picture it. It was a replica of the Coney Island Cyclone.
That's the
Viper.
reason-
Viper. It's called
Viper.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
must have been some great airtime if he
that
felt
was
he had to save
ejector
your
seat.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. Hand on my shoulder. I'm like, what are you doing? So I thought you were going out. You just messed up my ride.
And you said they actually have a water ride in the actual park.
They've got several.
They got several?
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of, like if it's a hot day, what kind of rides as far as water goes can people ride there besides the log flume?
Again, it's really interesting you bring up Kings Island. Actually, you can pay one price and go back and forth between the water park and the regular park all day.
Wow, that's
There were
nice.
people who did that, yeah.
And there's a train ride too where you get on in the middle of the roller coasters, and then it takes you halfway around, and then you get off at the entrance to the water park if you want to go in and out that way, and then it takes you back around to the other stop.
So you could do both parks if you wanted in a day.
Okay. So tell me more about the water park area, or the water rides, that is.
Oh, the water rides, yeah. So we like I think we'd said we'd rode the log ride they had there, log flume, which is fun, just exactly what you would imagine. They have a rapids ride, which are the circular rafts that spin in the water and go through rapids. Lost River at Silver Dollar City
type of thing. Yeah. Okay, so but as far as like, you're not as impressed with the water rides as you are with the roller coasters.
I would say that's a true statement, but I still really like water rides.
You appreciate them.
I appreciate them. That's
especially
correct.
if it's a hot day.
Oh yeah, yes. And I would have rode more but if you make me pick, I'm probably going to pick a roller coaster every time just for the sake of time.
Okay. So what kind of season is it, is it the same season that they hold over at Cedar Point?
I believe so. April, May-ish to September, and I know they do Halloween stuff, but I don't think they do Christmas either. Neither them or Cedar Point.
You know, you mentioned the whole Halloween thing that they do. Do they have similar ones, and what do they do on Halloween? So
they will open up haunted houses.
Okay.
You might hear them talked about as mazes or walkthroughs. So each park will have 3 or 4, maybe 5, I don't know. Worlds of Fun is actually really well known. They put on like supposedly one of the best ones.
Even more so than Universal?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, not Universal. I thought you were going to say Cedar Point. Yeah. But no, Universal is probably the ultimate. But outside of Universal, Disney doesn't really do much. Yeah. But Worlds of Fun's good. But yeah, so they have walkthroughs where they will hire people to just jump out and scare you, just like you'd think in a haunted house you walk through in any town. But the special effects, they do it upright. And then usually they will mark off a section of the park and say, this is what we're calling our scare zone. So don't take kids, because if you're walking into this area, just know that somebody will jump out at you.
You're fair game.
Yeah, anytime. So just know that. So usually it's like a fourth of the park or something.
Okay, that's
like
kind of fun.
We did do the Windseeker at Kings Island.
Oh yeah, tell about the Windseeker. That was really fun, actually.
So it's a swing, and it slowly takes you up 300 feet or 301, I think is the technical height of it, and then spins you around several rotations, and then it slowly takes you back down to the ground.
So it's like the Carnival Swings ride, but just on steroids, and it goes up a pole, like she said, 300 feet in the air, and it's by the time you get to the top, you're swinging at a pretty good clip, like 30 miles an hour, and you get great views. It lasted a long time, I thought.
Yeah, it was.
Cedar Point had one, and I wanted to ride that. We just ran out of time, but I said, well, if we don't get Cedar Point, I definitely want to ride it at Kings Island. And I would have ridden it 2 or 3 more times, but nobody else wanted to. But it was fun. I liked it.
So how about the kids areas, as far as kids rides go? Do they have that at Kings Island?
They do, and it looked really good. I think they may have actually won awards for best kids areas in the past.
We did in Vertigo. Or me and Ariel did.
In Vertigo. So,
Ariel and I did.
Get this. Here's a first that's never happened to me in all my years. And I've actually rode this roller coaster. That's never happened to me before.
You got sick.
No.
Oh, no. Come on. Let's be real.
That
Steve.
right there would have been the shocker.
Well, that would have been a shocker.
Did I take your thunder away?
Plot twist. No.
Okay, good.
So, there's a roller coaster that's almost every park around the country has. It's called a Boomerang. Now, Silver City doesn't have one, but one of the few. But it's what you would call one of the only off-the-shelf roller coasters.
Oh.
Meaning it's not customized usually. It's just you get what you get, and it's the same from one park to one. If you rode one, you rode them all kind of thing. So it's a forward and backward coaster. It pulls you, you get in, and it pulls you backwards up a really tall hill, and then it drops you and you go back through the station. Then you go upside down 3 times through 3 different things. You go up another incline until you slow down, and then a lift hill takes you a little bit further up, and then it lets you go, and you go back through the whole thing again backwards, and then you stop in the station. So that's a Boomerang. Well, Kings Island has an inverted Boomerang.
So what does it mean by inverted? It mean you're upside down?
You hang from the track.
Oh, hang from the track.
Yes.
That's what it is.
That's right. Yep. So you hang from the track, so your feet dangle. The track's above you. So like I said, I've ridden that before, so we got in line to ride it as one of the last rides of the day. And I pulled the restraint down. You have over-the-shoulder restraints. And
I'm waiting for this.
You know?
I'm waiting for it.
My head got... stuck isn't the right word, but it was so snug coming over my head that it hurt before I ever got it down to lock it. And I got it like halfway down. I'm like, this is really painful. And I was, in those few seconds, I was having a dilemma. I'm like, I don't know that I want to ride this because...
Could damage yourself, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd ridden it before, and it was very notorious for being bumpy. But I have a feeling what I think happened is... It's been, restraints don't last forever. Mm-hmm. So it's had the restraints replaced. And they put more padding on the restraints, which you think, that's probably makes it more comfortable. But it's not like soft, cushiony. It's real hard.
Okay.
It's not like hard like a table, but it's in between like a cushion and a table. So anyway, I think it was sticking out more than I've ever had. And honestly, this sounds weird, but I've got a big head. I mean, just ask my wife.
You do.
But the size of my head has always been big, even when I was a kid.
Right.
And so I could get the restraint on, no problem. But I was just thinking, if I'm in pain, and it's like my ears was folded over.
Oh, wow.
If I'm in pain now, when this thing gets going, and I know my head's going to go back and forth, it is probably not going to feel good. So I was thinking, I had the restraint like half down, so it wasn't clear. I wasn't locked in at all, but I couldn't push it up because they have to unlock the whole train.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I'm stuck. What am I going to do now? And again, this is, happens over 3 or 4 seconds. I'm having these thoughts. Well, for whatever reason, they unlocked the train and all the restraints went back up because they hadn't checked them to go on the ride yet. So, and that thing, it went back up. I'm like, I'm out.
I said, see ya.
I said,
and
see ya.
Bolted.
Yeah. I'm not taking a
really?
chance. Yeah. So I didn't ride it. I've ridden it before, so I wasn't worried, I'm never going to, so I knew what it was, but it would have been fun. But I thought, man, that might really hurt. And because my head would have been jarred, or, what's the right word? Kind of pried into place.
Yeah.
I don't know. Craziest thing. I've never had that. Huh? Yeah.
A vice.
Yeah. I've never had that happen before.
And then think about that vice being yanked around.
Yeah. I guess if I were a little taller, my head might have cleared it, but for whatever reason, it just hit me right on the sides of my head. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. This is not fun.
Well, I think that, that is a lesson to learn, that I should never ride roller coasters.
Just that one.
No,
I won't make you ride that one.
I think I learned my lesson just from that story. Thank you.
Well, shoot. Edit that part out.
Okay.
We haven't talked about the Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family filming episodes at Kings Island.
What's so funny? I actually watched a video on YouTube here just recently where they were talking about how the park has changed since they filmed the Brady Bunch there.
It definitely has. It's grown immensely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the side of the park where they filmed and the actual roller coaster called the Racer that they were riding, if I remember right, that's all still there.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still there. And the other thing we could talk about, but I think we covered this in our last episode a few months ago, the Racer was built with the park. It opened with the park in 1972, I believe. It was designed by a guy named John Allen. So you had the golden age of roller coasters up until the Depression. And then the Depression happened and, the popularity of roller coasters started to really diminish. And by the 60s, it wasn't, people were just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So this guy who had been a part of the Philadelphia Toboggan Company, he retired because nobody needs me anymore. Well, Kings Island talked him into coming out of retirement. And so his name was John Allen. And they said, can you design us, a really a big roller coaster for the time, record breaking, just pretty, something that's going to draw, to this new park we're building. So they convinced him to come out of retirement. Well, what he gave them was the Racer, and it was a dueling Woody. So 2 tracks side by side, and they were mirror images of each other. And they would obviously run at the same time, and they would race. And very similar to the Screaming Eagle at Six Flags in St. Louis.
Okay, I remember
same guy designed both.
This.
Yeah. It's a white wooden coaster just like that. And it's rough. I didn't even ride it this time. It's rough. It beats you up.
Yeah,
I made
it was
her
just
ride
me, Ariel, and our friend Scott. On it.
Yeah, because I said, you guys have never ridden this. You need to ride it one time. And they didn't, and they were done. But
it was fun. I liked it. But it was a little bit rough.
But it's a piece of history because it was the roller coaster. Like I said, this guy came out of retirement, and building this one roller coaster started what has been called the second golden age of roller coasters. And it was because of the Racer in Kings Island, because it was so popular and people were riding it. Other parks said, well, we want one too. We want something like this. So Six Flags, St. Louis got one. Chicago, got one around that same time. That's very similar. There's others I can't even think of. Colossus out at Magic Mountain.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Same type of roller coaster. But anyway, the Racer is still standing, and it's the reason we have all of the big roller coasters we've talked about, and that,
it started the race, so the bigger the better, right?
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah. You can really trace it back to probably the Racer as the catalyst for why we
got a lot of nostalgia going on just by going into Kings Island.
Sure.
Alone. We got the Brady Bunch that had
Brady
visited.
Bunch.
Then we got the beginning of the new era of roller coasters because of John Allen.
Right.
In Kings Island.
Right.
What was the name of the ride again?
Just the Racer.
The Racer, that's it.
Yep.
It's actually quite fascinating history with the roller coasters because, it's got would you say over 100 years or more of just history that we can actually find and research about where roller coasters came from.
Are you talking about roller coasters in general?
And just roller coasters in general.
For sure.
And Kings Island is like a staple in history where you can actually say this is a pivotal moment where roller coasters really started to just go crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And Cedar Point goes back to the mid to late 1800s.
Yeah.
As a tourist destination.
Right.
So, yeah. And if you're interested, the book I would recommend is called The Incredible Scream Machine. Mm-hmm. It's out of print, but you might be able to find it online. That is the definitive history of roller coasters.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming on once again.
Thanks for having us. It's a blast.
Thank you everyone for listening to episode number
99.
99. That's crazy.
It's hard
awesome.
to believe.
What's going to be episode 100? I keep interrupting.
No,
we're working on that.
Yeah,
okay,
we're working on that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can
good. A
talk about that
cliffhanger.
when we get off the recording thing.
Oh, okay. Just between us. Hush, hush.
The one about Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Two Tenderfoot Tourists is a weekly family-friendly podcast. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe to Podbean, Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Spotify, just to name a few.
To get in touch with us and chat about this podcast or even your travel experiences, simply email us at tenderfoottourist@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Keep those suggestions coming. Maybe you'll give us our best episode of 2019. I'm Steve.
And I'm Sandy.
Until next time.
Stay tender.